The sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the room. Vine stirred awake, her body tangled in the soft sheets. She blinked a few times, adjusting to the light, and turned over to find Jungkook lying next to her, his face buried in the pillow. A smile crept onto her face as she watched him sleep. His dark hair was messy, strands falling over his forehead, and his lips were slightly parted. He looked so peaceful that she didn't want to disturb him, but the mischievous side of her couldn't resist. She leaned closer and poked his cheek gently. Cook, wake up. He groaned, burying his face deeper into the pillow. No. Come on, it's already late, she teased, poking him again. 5 more minutes, he mumbled, his voice muffled. Vine rolled her eyes and sat up, pulling the blanket off him. You said that an hour ago. Jungkook reached out blindly, grabbing her wrist and pulling her back down onto the bed. She squealed as she landed beside him, his arms wrapping around her waist to trap her. Now you're stuck, he said, his voice still groggy but laced with amusement. Jungkook, she laughed, trying to wiggle free. Let me go. Not a chance, he replied, finally opening his eyes to look at her. His gaze softened as he took in her flushed cheeks and disheveled hair. You look cute in the morning. She huffed, her face heating up. Don't try to distract me. We need to get up. He smirked, tightening his hold on her. What's the rush? It's Sunday. Let's just stay like this for a while. She sighed, pretending to be annoyed, but she didn't move. Instead, she rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. You're impossible, she murmured. And you love it, he teased, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. As they lay there, the world outside seemed to fade away. There were no parties, no expectations, just the two of them wrapped up in each other. Okay, Vine said after a while, breaking the silence. But if you're making me stay here, you're getting up to make breakfast later. Jungkook chuckled, his chest vibrating against her. Deal, but only if you help me. Fine, she agreed, a smile tugging at her lips. And so they stayed there, tangled together in the quiet warmth of the morning, savoring a moment that was entirely theirs. About an hour later, Vine stretched and reluctantly climbed out of bed. Jungkook groaned in protest, reaching out to pull her back, but she dodged him with a laugh. You promised me breakfast, she said, tying her hair into a messy bun. And you promised to help. He shot back, sitting up and rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Come on, chef, she teased, tossing him a hoodie from the chair. Let's see if you've got skills in the kitchen or if it's all just for show. Jungkook smirked, pulling the hoodie over his head. You're about to be amazed, wifey. Prepare yourself. In the kitchen, Vine leaned against the counter, watching Jungkook rummage through the fridge. He pulled out eggs, bacon, and a carton of milk, setting them on the counter with a triumphant grin. I'll handle the coffee, Vine offered, walking over to the coffee machine. You focus on not burning the house down. Jungkook rolled his eyes, cracking an egg into a bowl with an exaggerated flourish. Where's the faith, Vine? She snorted. It's not a lack of faith, it's experience. As Jungkook whisked the eggs, Vine set 2 mugs on the counter and leaned over to sneak a peek at his progress. You know you're supposed to season that, right? Patience, he said, grabbing a pinch of salt and pepper with a smirk. It's all about timing. Uh huh, she replied skeptically, sipping her coffee. The real chaos began when Jungkook moved to the stove. Careful with the heat, Wine warned as he poured the eggs into the pan. I've got this, he assured her, but a second later the eggs sizzled a little too loudly, and he jumped back. Okay, maybe the heat is a little too high. Wine burst out laughing. Here, let me help. No way, he said, holding up a hand to stop her. I'm proving a point. She crossed her arms, a playful smirk on her lips. Fine, chef. Show me what you've got. Despite a few hiccups, like nearly dropping the spatula and flipping a piece of bacon into the floor, Jungkook managed to plate the food. He turned to Vine with a proud grin, holding the plates like they were trophies. Ta-da! He said. Vine looked at the slightly overcooked eggs and uneven bacon, but couldn't help smiling. It's something, she teased. Something amazing, he corrected, setting the plates on the table. They sat down together, and Vine took a bite, her eyes widening in surprise. Okay, this is actually good. See, Jungkook said, leaning back in his chair with a smug smile. Told you I could cook. She rolled her eyes but leaned over to kiss his cheek. Fine, you win this time, but next time I'm in charge. Deal, he said, wrapping an arm around her shoulders as they continued their breakfast, the morning filled with laughter and teasing. After breakfast, the day settled into a cozy rhythm. Jungkook and Vine curled up onto the couch, a soft blanket draped over their legs, while a movie played on the TV. The rain had started a little after noon, the rhythmic patter against the windows creating a soothing backdrop. I can't believe you picked this, Vine teased, gesturing at the screen. What's wrong with it? Jungkook asked, his face mock offended. An action movie on a rainy day like this? It's all about explosions and yelling. Exactly, he said, grinning. It's perfect. She rolled her eyes and leaned her head against his shoulder. You're lucky I love you. Very lucky, he murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. Halfway through the movie, Vine started fidgeting. I'm bored, she announced suddenly. Jungkook paused the movie and turned to her, raising an eyebrow. You were the one complaining about my choice. She gave him a sheepish smile. Okay, fine, but I need something to do. Like what? Her eyes lit up. Let's bake something. Jungkook groaned, already picturing the mess they had made. You want to bake after the chaos of breakfast? Yes, she said, tugging at his arm. Come on, it will be fun. And we have nothing else to do. He sighed, letting her pull him off the couch. All right, but you're cleaning the kitchen this time. The kitchen became a battlefield once again, this time covered in flour and sugar. Why is the recipe so complicated? Jungkook muttered, holding up the instructions on his phone. It's not complicated, you're just bad at following directions. Wine teased, grabbing a whisk. Excuse me, I made a perfect breakfast earlier, he said, puffing out his chest. Perfectly burnt bacon, maybe. She shot back, laughing. Before he could respond, Wine flicked a bit of flour at him. It landed on his nose and she doubled over in laughter. You look ridiculous, Wine said, brushing flour off his hair. So do you, he replied, cupping her face in his hands. Her laughter faded as he leaned closer, his gaze softening. "You're beautiful," he whispered, kissing her gently. The timer for the oven beeped, breaking the moment. "Our cookies!" Wine gasped, rushing to the oven. They pulled out the tray, both holding their breaths. The cookies were misshapen and slightly uneven, but they smelled heavenly. "Not bad," Jungkook said, popping one into his mouth. "Not bad at all." Wine took a bite and grinned. "We make a good team. Always," he said, wrapping an arm around her waist. As the rain continued to fall outside, they sat on the counter sharing cookies and laughter, completely content in their little world.